I'm Sarah and welcome to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to show you how to make this cute spring tulip basket. And I know a lot of people always say, how do you keep it sturdy? And what we did with this basket is we used 2 strands of acrylic yarn held together to stitch it up. And it makes it a nice sturdy basket that you can put lots of fun things inside, or maybe just use for a planter. It would be beautiful with a container of tulips inside, since these are tulips going around. It measures about 6 inches across and it's about 6 inches high. So it's a really nice size for filling with Easter candy, goodies, toys, Easter bunny, or a plant. It's a versatile spring basket. Now you can find the free written crochet pattern on my blog, and as always, I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. To make our basket, we're going to be using acrylic yarn, and all 3 of these colors are from I Love This Yarn from Hobby Lobby. These colors are Red Heart Super Saver, so you can really use any acrylic yarns that you have on hand. And I say acrylic, you can also use a blend, but we're going to be using 2 strands together at the same time. And what I do is I decide what colors I'm going to use. I'm going to use this beige color where I have white on this one. I'm going to use this spring green color where I have this spring green color. And then I'm going to do my tulips, both rows, in this orchid purple. And what I did is I wound up a ball of yarn with the 2 strands together. Now, you can do it this way. You can use 2 skeins, pulling from both, or if you have one and you don't want to roll it up, you can go from the outside and the inside and pull it together. Just do whatever works best for you. Now, I'm working from my stash, things I already have on hand, and so I just went ahead and rolled up some balls. And I did about 1 ounce of these 2 colors and about 2 ounces of my main color. We're going to be stitching today with our J hook. It's a 6.00 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need a needle for weaving in those ends and a pair of scissors. We're going to be starting with our main color on the bottom and then alternating our rows. And so I've got all 3 of my balls of yarn ready to go in this container, and then I can just bring them in when needed. So we're starting with our main color. This basket was done in white. This one I'm doing in beige. I wanted it to look a little bit more like a wicker basket. So we're going to begin with our slip knot, and again we're using 2 strands held together. We're going to chain 5, and we're going to join this chain 5 into a circle. So we'll take the tail of yarn, put it over our hook, and pull it through that loop. We'll snug that down and make that stay knot. Now, if you prefer to use the magic ring here, you certainly can. We're going to put our hook in, pull up a loop, and chain 3. Our chain 3 here counts as 1 double crochet, and we need to stitch 9 more double crochets in this chain 5 loop. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, and go through the second 2. Now, the key to keeping your yarn from getting loopy or gapy is just to continue to pull it like this. You don't have to pull hard, just keep it together so it lays nicely. We don't want it gaping or bumping. We want it to lay nice and even. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now our chain 3 counted as 1 double crochet, and I stitched 9 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You'll also notice I stitched over that tail of yarn. We're going to join to the chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. Now we'll turn this over. We'll gently pull on that yarn, and we'll take our needle. Now I have a small needle because I'm going to do these individually. I like doing it that way when I use 2 strands. I think it just holds better. But if you feel better using a needle with a bigger eye and do both strands together, you certainly can. I just like doing it this way. It's just a preference. And I definitely don't want the center of my basket to come undone. All right, then we'll go ahead and clip those, and I won't have to worry about that later. So for round or row 1, we have 10 double crochets. We join to our chain 3 and chained 3. Now for row 2, we're going to place 2 double crochets in each of those 10 around. Our chain 3 counts as 1, so we'll place 1 double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3. Now we'll place 2 double crochets in each of those 10. Two double crochets in each of the double crochets around, working all the way around and join back to our chain 3. I stitched 2 double crochets in each of those 10, so now I have 20 double crochets for row 2. I'm going to join to the top of that chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. And for row 3, we're basically going to do the same thing we did at row 2. We're going to stitch a double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3, and then place 2 double crochets in each of those double crochets around. And this is going to give us a nice flat bottom for our basket to sit without being roly-poly. We don't want our basket to roll over when it's filled with good Easter goodies, or even a spring flower. All right, so there we go. For row 3, we're stitching 2 double crochets in each of the double crochets around. And when we get back around there, we're going to join to our chain 3 with the slip stitch and chain 3, just like we did on row 2. I've completed row 3. I have 40 double crochets because we stitched 2 in each of those 20. I joined to my chain 3 and chained 3. Now for row 4, we're going to be stitching in the back loops only, and we'll be stitching 1 double crochet in each stitch. And if you look at the top here, you have 2 sets of loops. You have loops on the front that are facing you. You have loops on the back that are facing away. And we're going to be stitching only in these back loops. We're going to be stitching 1 double crochet in each of the back loops of each stitch. That's the front loop, so we'll go in here and stitch the back in the back loop. 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets around, stitching in the back loop only. And as you do that, you will notice there'll be a line here. That tells you you're doing it correctly because those are the front loops we didn't stitch in. So yarn over, go in the back loop, and stitch 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets around. We're not increasing anymore, and so this row for row 4 will also have 40 double crochets. So just to repeat, 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets around, stitching in the back loops only. You'll notice it start to curl, and we're going to pull it out like this. And the reason that we're stitching in that back loop only is it's going to give us this edge, so again our basket lays nice and flat and isn't roly-poly. So we'll repeat this, working all the way around and join back to our chain 3. I have completed row 4, stitching 1 double crochet in each stitch around, stitching in the back loops only. And see how that line moves all the way around? That's exactly how you want it to look. I joined to my chain 3, but I didn't chain 3 yet, and that's because we're going to bring in our green color. We're going to bring our green in. We're going to chain 4. This chain 4 counts as a double crochet, chain 1. We're not going to cut our beige yarn. We're going to trail it up on the inside of our basket. On this row, we're going to be making V-stitches. And so I'm going to place another double crochet in the same stitch as my chain 4. Since my chain 4 counted as a double crochet chain 1, I stitched another double crochet in the same stitch, so that's my first V-stitch. We're going to skip the next stitch and stitch a V-stitch in the next double crochet. And our V-stitch is double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. And again, we're stitching with 2 strands of our green yarn. Skip the next double crochet and stitch a V-stitch in the next. Skip the next double crochet and stitch a V-stitch in the next. And so what we're doing is just repeating this all the way around for row 5. Skip the next double crochet and V-stitch, which again is a double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. And we'll repeat this working all the way around and join back to our third chain of our chain 4. I have completed stitching my V-stitches all the way around. Here's my last V-stitch and my last stitch that I'm going to skip, and I'm going to join in the third chain of that chain 4. And then I'm going to slip stitch in between in the chain 1. I'm not going to chain 3 because I'm going to be bringing in my lavender here that I'm using for my tulip color. Now you're going to have 20 V-stitches around. And again, I'm not going to cut my yarn because I'm going to trail it up inside my basket. If you're more comfortable cutting them off and weaving them in, you can do that. I just do it this way to have less weaving in to do. All right, so I'm going to bring in my orchid purple or lavender. Strings out of the way there. I'm going to go in this first chain 1 space of my first V-stitch, pull up a loop, I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to yarn over. Now I'm going to go back in, I'm going to pull up a loop, I'm going to yarn over and only go through the first two. And then I'll yarn over and go through both of those. Chain 1. That's just to get us started on our first one. Now we're going to go to the next chain 1. And we're going to yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over and only go through the first 2 loops. Now we'll yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over and only go through the first 2 loops. Yarn over and go through all 3 loops and chain 1. Now, usually when we're doing a tulip stitch, you're going to do 3 double crochets for your cluster. Because we're using 2 strands and it's very thick, we decided to only do a 2 double crochet cluster for the tulips on this project. All right, so we chained 1, yarn over, go in the next chain 1 space, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through the first 2. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and only go through the first 2. It'll look like you have 2 unfinished double crochets and an extra loop. Yarn over and go through all 3 of those loops and chain 1. And that's what we're going to do in each of the chain 1 spaces of our V stitches in order to form our tulips. Yarn over, go in, chain 1. And we'll stitch this all the way around in each of the chain 1 spaces of our V stitches. Our tulip stitch and chain 1. I completed row 6, stitching my 2 double crochet clusters, chain 1 in each of the V stitches around. And now we're going to join back to that chain 2 where we started with a slip stitch. And we're going to drop our purple color. Now, if you're going to use 2 different colors like I did on this one, where I used yellow and pink, you can go ahead and cut your yarn for your tulips. I'm going to do both my rows the same color. I think it'd be really pretty. All right, so I'm going to leave mine attached. If you're doing the same color, go ahead and leave it attached. I'm going to bring back in my main color. Make sure everything's snug down back here. And chain 3. And what we're going to do is we're going to double crochet in the top of that tulip stitch. Then we're going to double crochet in the chain 1 in between. There we go. And so what our repeat is for row 7 is double crochet in the top of the tulip stitch and double crochet in the chain 1 space in between. Double crochet in the top of the tulip stitch and double crochet in the chain 1 space in between. And this is going to give us 40 double crochets. And we'll repeat this working all the way around our basket. Double crochet in the chain 1 space and double crochet in the top of our tulip stitch. We'll work this all the way around and join back to our chain 3. I completed row 7, 1 double crochet in each chain 1 space and 1 in each of our tulip stitches. I joined back to my chain 3. And now I'm going to grab my green yarn again, and we're going to repeat what we did on row 5, where we stitched the green V stitches. So I'll chain 3, and then one more, because we need a double crochet, chain one, and then double crochet in that same stitch. Get in there. There we go. Skip the next stitch and V-stitch in the next. And again, we'll repeat this, working all the way around just like we did on row 5. I've completed that second row of V-stitches, and I'm finished with my green yarn, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that off, and we can get that out of the way. One less thing to have to worry about. Now, I'm going to bring back in my lavender color that I'm using for my tulips. And if you're using a different color, go ahead and bring in your color now. We're going to chain 2, and we're going to double crochet in that double crochet, or in that chain 1 space, and then chain 1. Now we'll go to our next chain 1 space and start stitching our tulip stitches just like we did on row 6. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, go through the first 2 loops. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, go through the first 2 loops, yarn over, and go through all 3 loops, chain 1, and repeat on each of the chain 1 spaces of our V stitches. And chain 1. And we'll continue to do that all the way around for row 9. I completed that row of my tulip stitches, 1 in each of the chain 1 spaces of my V stitches, and then I joined to that chain 2, and I'm finished with this color, so I'm going to cut my yarn, and again, that's out of the way, and we're going to finish up with our main color. We'll bring in our beige, or whatever color you're using for the main color of your basket. And what we're going to do is right in this stitch, we're going to stitch a single crochet. There we go. And then we'll go in between and stitch a single crochet. So on this row we did double crochets. We're stitching it the same, only we're doing single crochets. So a single crochet in the top of our tulip stitch, and then a single crochet in between in that chain 1 space. Single crochet in the top of our tulip stitch, and single crochet in between in the chain 1 space. We'll do this all the way around for a nice even row of single crochets. I completed that row of single crochets all the way around, and again I have 40 single crochets. Now our last row we're going to do what's called a reverse single crochet. Alright, so we joined to our first single crochet and chained 1. Now we're going to go, we usually go around this way, and we're going to go in the reverse direction. So we're going to go to the next stitch back, we're going to grab that, pull that up, and single crochet through. So we'll go in the next stitch, pull the loops through, yarn over, and go through. And it's called reverse single crochet because we're doing single crochets, but only in the reverse direction. Get some more yarn out here. Alright, so we'll go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through both loops. And this makes a nice edge on our basket. Isn't that nice? Makes a nice edge. One thing I have found about working the reverse single crochet is that it works better when we try to loosen our stitches up just a little bit. when you try to stitch it too tightly, it makes it a little more cumbersome and uncomfortable, and it doesn't look as pretty. All right, so this is our reverse single crochet, and we're stitching this all the way around for the edge of our basket. I have stitched the reverse single crochet all the way around the edge of my basket. Okay, and this brings me back over here. Here's my last stitch. I'm going to give myself a little bit of yarn. And the way that you work that in is you're going to put your hook through. You're going to pull those loops through and tie off. All right, because we want it to look nice and neat, right? And so now the last thing we have to do is weave our ends in. I'm going to turn this out so you can see what it looks like on the inside. And so here's where I carried my yarns, so I won't have to weave those in, but I will have to weave those and these. And that's why I like to carry that up, so I don't have as many ends to weave in. All right, so I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to weave in them individually. Now you can do them together if you want to with a bigger needle, but I just like doing it this way. I want to make sure it's going to hold secure, especially if I'm going to be giving this as a gift with some goodies inside. All right, and so I'll do each one of these. And another thing to remember is to keep your colors within your colors when you're weaving in. If I go down into this lavender, it might show through on this side. All right, so I'm going to tidy up my basket and it'll be all ready to fill with goodies. So here is my spring tulip basket that we just made, and I really love the beige and the violet orchid color together. And then here's the other one that I did in your basic Easter and spring colors, and I love both of them. They both turned out really cute, and I can't wait to fill them up with some fun goodies to decorate around my house.